Hi, welcome to this video focusing on the lower back and tension that you might be feeling around that area or in the hips. Shout out to Dr. Phil Bliss. I hear that you are unfortunately unwell at home and suffering with quite a bad back just from being at home and being sort of confined to the bedroom. And I'm sure a lot of us are sort of dealing with stiff backs and stiff hips at the moment just because of being at home a lot more than normal during this virus and being a bit more sedentary. So I hope that some of these movements will be useful for you and that you'll enjoy them. Let me know, leave any feedback in the comment section. Alright, we'll get going. So some things that I have with me that you might like to make this practice a little bit more comfortable are a blanket, or you could even use a small cushion, a thin cushion, but I've just got a rolled up blanket, and a couple of yoga blocks. So obviously I know this isn't something that everybody has, so as an alternative to blocks you could also just use books, so either some big chunky books or a few books stacked on top of one another. Will do a similar job to the blocks. So feel free to hit pause, get whatever you need ready in case you want it, and then we'll get going. So we're going to start in cross-legged position, in a cross-legged seat, if that's comfortable for you, with the right foot crossed in front of the left. If you do get here and you feel like it's a little bit uncomfortable for you, some things you can do are to put the blanket or the cushion underneath your pelvis, just sitting on the very edge of it with the sit bones, which will help to just find the tilt of the pelvis and relax hopefully across the hip flexors. If you get here and you find that your knees are sort of not relaxing down to the ground and it's not very comfortable to have them in that position, then you can get the blocks or books and put them underneath the thighs or the knees, wherever you need them, to find that comfort and release in the hips. So get whatever you need, find your comfortable way into this position. And then we're going to start with the eyes closed, just sort of becoming aware of how everything feels. Bringing a gentle awareness to any areas of tension or tightness that we can feel back there, but not obsessing about them, not trying to change anything at this point. Connecting to your breath and just finding a deeper breath, extending the length of your inhalations and exhalations. And if this is the first movement that you're taking today, or if you haven't been moving very much recently, then we're just going to start with a gentle warm-up for the whole body. So take your chin down towards your chest, and we're just going to start to roll the ear over towards the shoulder, coming through center, taking the other ear towards the other shoulder. And just rolling the head like this in semicircles from side to side. So we start to wake up the connections around the neck, the sides of the shoulders, the tops of the shoulders, and down into the top of the upper back as well. So the cervical spine, the thoracic spine, just starting to wake up those connections. When you're done with that investigation, bringing the head back up and then just starting with a rolling through the shoulders, so bringing them up, down, forwards, circling them back, down and forwards, and then going in the other direction. Maybe finding circling with one shoulder at a time, bringing the hands away from the knees. Again, this is just an opportunity to let the whole body find a little bit more ease, loosening things up before we start focusing on any particular movements. can start to take the spine, the chest around in a circling motion. And I do have a longer video tutorial on this wake up, the circling in the spine, which you can have a little look at if you wanted to have a bit more of an intensive warm up and then take it in the other direction as well. Let the head and the neck be involved, the shoulders, everything moving around with you. And then coming back into an upright position, let everything settle. And then we'll go into our lower back work. So, well, that's already work. Take the blocks away if you're using them, or you can keep them there if you need your knees to feel a little bit more comfortable. Hands on the knees, and we're going to start by lowering the right shoulder towards the left knee and having a gentle press away through the right hand on the right knee. And then lifting back up through centre, and this time I'm going to take the left shoulder, left side of the chest down towards the right knee. And then continuing like this, dipping the chest from one side to the other. And just going as far as feels comfortable here, so there's no need to try and get the chest down to the knee. It's just starting to connect into the side of the waist and the side of the body, going all the way down into the side of the hip and the lower back on whichever side you're stretching into. So just keep going from side to side, working with this sense of engaging and then releasing, moving in and out of these shapes. Making sure your head and your neck haven't tensed up. Alright, and then we're going to pause with the right shoulder coming over towards the left. Take the left palm down onto the ground for support, and we're going to find a gentle negotiation with the chest and the rib cage, rolling them up and down. I've got a gentle press away through my right hand into the top of my right knee. Getting into the connections in the muscles around the rib cage. Again, a nice wake up for the spine, the whole of the spine here. Maybe just pausing now with the slight press away into the hand. And then walking your hands around in front of your legs onto the ground, or if that feels a little bit uncomfortable, then bringing your books or blocks to help you just lift the ground up towards you. And then we're going to find the snaking action through the upper body. So it's as if we're going towards a forward fold, but we're just flirting with the idea of the forward fold, not committing to anything just yet. And working with the side to side movement to start to get that sense of massaging into the connection of the lower back into the hips. And it's the sacroiliac joint, the SI joint, that connects down into the lower back and the pelvis. If you are super flexible and you're taking your hands down and maybe bringing your forearms down to the ground, great, but just make sure you lift the sit bones away from the ground slightly so that you're not pulling the lower back, but rather it's getting into the hip creases and the hip flexors rather than getting a kind of strain on the lower back. You can pause for a moment here, just taking a few deeper breaths. And then walking the hands back up towards you. And we're going to find a shoulder opener now, so getting into the upper back and tops of the shoulders. It's called Garudasana. So we're going to take our arms out wide like wings and then cross the right arm on top of the left and bring our hands onto our shoulders. So elbows are stacked one on top of the other and hands on the shoulders. And we're going to start to move the forearms towards finding this bind, this wrap of the right forearm coming around the left, and maybe the palms connect, Maybe you're just holding onto the thumb of the right hand with your left hand. If that feels it's not going to happen, then you can get a belt or a scarf, a strap of any kind to hold on to between your hands, and that'll help you just find the opening across the upper back before you just start forcing this bind to happen. So no forcing. Pause the video if you need to go and get something to help you make that connection between the hands. And then when you come back, we're just lifting up tall for a moment, taking the head from side to side, releasing through the neck, the tops of the shoulders. And we're going to start to move this arm posture. So bringing the arms down towards the legs, rounding the upper back and letting the head and neck relax. And then going the other way, opening up, lifting the elbows towards shoulder height, but just going as far as feels comfortable. Lifting the chest slightly, and then we'll just flow between those two different shapes. The rounded back, and then the lifting of the elbow, lifting of the chest. You want both of your elbows lifting, not just one. Again, just tune into your breath. Notice if it's still nice and steady and deep, or whether you started to restrict the breath at all. And if that's the case, then just taking smaller movements, pausing, coming out of it, refinding the breath, and then coming back. Okay, pause now in a neutral place with the arms. So we can take a few deeper breaths into what you feel across the upper back. Swallow deeply to relax the throat, softening the forehead and the eyes. And then releasing that bind, letting go of the strap if you've got it, just shaking out, wiggling the shoulders. And then we'll uncross the legs and take the left foot in front of the right. If this cross-legged position is getting uncomfortable at all, then you can take all of these movements from cobbler pose with the knees bent but the feet uncrossed. And then you'd be taking the shoulder towards the knee with your hands on your shins. Okay. So when you're ready, bringing the hands onto your knees, and we'll start with the left shoulder this time going towards the right. And moving side to side. Getting that sense of a gentle, almost twist in the upper back, but also this sense of opening, creating more space down the side of the body and side of the hip joint. And then pausing with the left shoulder coming towards the right, gentle press away with the left hand, and my right palm is coming down to the ground. And I'm going to find that tilting, turning of the chest up and down. Letting the head and the neck get involved. We move in and out of this, working with movement, small negotiation, almost to have a conversation with the body. So rather than just getting into a pose and staying there and trying to deepen it when the body might not be ready for it, by taking these small movements, we're letting the body decide when it's ready to pause. And also just talking to our body and finding out, what does it need today? What kind of movements is it ready for? Are we wanting quite a big opening and a deeper engagement? Or actually, is what we want today just a really contained, small, intimate conversation? Whenever you're done there, bringing the hands around in front of you, and again finding that side to side snaking action. with the back. Having your hands on the ground or on blocks, whatever feels comfortable. Maybe you feel like you've got a little bit more freedom now to bring the hands further forwards, taking the sit bones away from the ground a little bit. Again, turning the head and the neck with you. If you are in cobbler pose rather than cross-legged, then the same thing. The hands can be down on the ground in front of you or either side. And it's this kind of flossing action with the back that we're looking for. Getting the massage across the whole of the back. Okay. Then walking your hands up towards you. Just let all of that settle. Close your eyes for a moment and sense into what's happening now around the pelvis, lower, middle and upper back. And then we'll take our Garudasana eagle arms, opening the arms out wide like wings and then crossing the left arm now over the right, bringing hands onto shoulders, stacking the elbows, and again, seeing if we can find that wrap of the forearms and the bind with the hands together. Get the strap or scarf if you need it. And then pausing, turning the head. So quite often when we come into these shoulder openers, particularly if this is the first time we've done them, or if we are particularly stiff in our shoulders, it's the top of the shoulders around the neck and the jaw that can start to tense up and almost brace us. So by taking this head rolling or turning, we're just making sure that we've still got space around there, giving our body the message that it's okay to relax. And then when you're ready, bringing the elbows down, rounding the upper back, moving the hands towards the floor, and then lifting, bringing the elbows towards the face, maybe finding a little arch in the upper back, and then just repeating those two actions a few times. Going nice and slowly so that you can sense what's happening there and sense how far you want to go in either direction. You could even explore a side-to-side movement with the arms, the chest. If you've practiced with me before, then you'll know that I'm also keen on a circling action. Always circles. Really helping me to find your full range of motion. Wherever you are, we're going to pause now with the arms in a neutral position. Relaxing the face, swallowing deeply to relax the throat, softening, and then releasing. Okay, give everything a little shake, wiggle, and then we're going to move on to all fours so that we can explore the lunging action, which will again help us to get into the hip flexors and working with the psoas as well. So coming into all fours, we're going to start by just finding some hip circles. So imagining that you're drawing a circle around your knees with your pelvis. And exploring both directions with that circling. Should have mentioned here that if you are working on a hard surface or you have any knee sensitivity, then you can just put that blanket or small cushion underneath the knees here to help you feel a little bit more comfortable. And then pausing with the hips, pressing backwards and just finding a sway through the pelvis from side to side. Letting the shoulders and the chest move with you. And then we're going to draw the left foot forwards now. So you can pick up the foot and carry it forwards if it doesn't want to go there on its own. And bringing the left hand around the outside of the left foot on the outside of the left hand, sorry. Again, I've just moved the blanket underneath my right knee now for a bit of cushioning. And if the lunges are uncomfortable for you, then you can just bring your blocks, your books underneath your hands. Again, just letting the ground be lifted a little bit closer to you. So thinking of these as arm extenders. And then we're going to work with a circling in the pelvis. And we're going to start by finding it in the foot. So the connection of the foot all the way up through the leg, into the hip, the lower back, working with everything as a unit. So starting by turning out onto the outside edge of the left foot, and then rolling onto the ball of the foot, onto the arch on the inside of the foot, to the heel, and back out to the outside edge. And then keep rolling the foot across these 4 different points. And you might notice that your knee has now started to circle as well, as it is connected. So allow that circling in the knee. And then just noticing if you can start to invite the pelvis to join in the circling motion as well. You can take the foot a little bit wider and turn the toes out if you need to help you find that. And then allowing the pelvis to take over this circling now. Still letting the foot negotiate and move around if it needs to. And the image that I like to use for this is, it's like you've got a gravity-defying hula hoop around your hips that just keeps circling even though you're going really slowly. So if you can imagine that, taking the hula hoop action. Reverse the direction now. Again, letting the foot and the knee join in. And these circles, as always, can be as big or as small, contained as you need them to be. But they're really, really good motions, good actions for getting into the front of, it's the right hip flexor here, the back leg, and also into the hip crease and the outside of the left hip. And so the psoas is this nerve that runs down the front of the hip flexor, but also wraps around and connects into all 5 lumbar vertebrae. So that's our lower back. So very often, pain or tightness in the lower back can refer to tension in the hips and in the psoas. Not always, but sometimes. Okay. Once you're done with that circling, we're going to start to press the hips back slightly, taking the hips back so that the left leg can extend, bringing the toes away from the ground, and walking the blocks closer towards you, bringing your hands closer towards you, bowing the chest down. And then from here, we're just going to find that swaying action again, side to side with the pelvis. Letting the left foot roll in and out on the heel. Just taking a really slow, lazy, swaying action. So my teacher likes to call this lazy dog, which I think is quite good because it's as if you've got a tail attached to your tailbone and you're trying to wag it really slowly and lazily from side to side. Coming forwards again, we'll take the left foot back and bring the right foot forwards. If you need to relieve any tension on your wrists, then just coming on to fingertips or fists will help there as well. Okay. So once again, we're going to start with that circling on the right foot. I'm just going to turn towards the camera so that you can see a little bit better here. So rolling onto the outside edge of the right foot, up onto the ball of the foot, to the arch, to the heel, and moving between all 4 edges now of the foot. Again, the knee has started to join in naturally. And then I'm going to bring that circling action all the way now into the pelvis and allow the pelvis to start to lead that circling action. Shifting and negotiating. You can have the back toes tucked or untucked, whatever feels better for you. And sort of lubricating the joints here, and as if we were pouring some WD-40 into the joints. It's actually synovial fluid, so we're getting all of that fluid, the connections working here. I bet Dr. Phil and any other doctors watching this are kind of hanging their heads in despair at my analogies. It's not really what the body is like. It's how it feels though sometimes. Okay, taking the circles in the other direction now. I feel like I'm pouring WD-40 into my joints. Circling, feeling that connection all the way down the front of the left hip flexor now. Okay. And then again, we're going to walk our hands or our blocks a little bit closer to us so that we can extend through the right leg, bringing the toes away from the ground and finding that lazy dog sway with the pelvis. Wagging your tail behind you like a dog who really doesn't want to have to get up out of its dog bed and go about its day. I do wonder what comes out of my head sometimes. Okay, once you've finished with that, then just taking the right knee behind you. And we're going to make our way down now onto our back, just so that we can take one last restorative pose for the hips, which will hopefully help you find a little bit of opening around the hips, the front of the hips. So for this, you will want a block or a book or quite a solid cushion if you've got one of those. Or a rolled up blanket or towel, something that you're going to be able to rest your pelvis on when you're lying on the ground. So I'm going to demonstrate with my block, and then feel free just to pause, go and get anything that you need to help you. So coming down onto the ground, coming down and bringing that block underneath your pelvis. So we're coming down onto the back with the knees bent, lifting the pelvis away from the ground, and then putting the back of the pelvis onto the block or book or cushion. And I'll just show you here that the block is not on my lower back, so it's not on the bottom of my spine. It's on this triangular bone, the sacrum, which is just about where the end of the tailbone is. So it's a little bit lower than you might sort of initially imagine. So setting yourself up there with the broadness of your pelvis supported by the block. And then I'm going to shuffle this way. We're going to extend one leg at a time, out long. And when you get both of your legs, not quite enough space. When you get both of your legs extended on the ground, just take a moment to let the legs roll out wide, and just notice if you've started to get any compression in your lower back. And if that is the case, then just working with one leg extended and one leg bent, and then switching sides. Or if that is still uncomfortable and tight in the lower back, creating a bit of an ache, then just keep both of the legs bent and feel that support of the block underneath your pelvis. Seeing if you can ungrip across the front of the groin, across the front of the hips, and rest the weight of your pelvis down onto that block that's supporting you. And let your arms just relax down by your sides. Head, neck and shoulders relaxed. If you've just got one leg extended, then switching sides. few moments here, refinding your deeper breath. And whilst you're resting there, with your eyes closed, I'm just going to read you a few lines from a poem, and this is called Sonnet to Orpheus by Rainer Maria Rilke. It's just a few lines. You have been chosen. You are sound and whole. You are like the very first beat of the heart. You are the bow that shoots the arrows and also their target. In tears, your smile would glow forever. Do not be afraid to suffer. Give the heaviness back to the weight of the earth. Mountains are heavy. Seas are heavy. Even those trees you planted as children became too heavy long ago. You couldn't carry them now, but you can carry the winds and the open spaces. You can carry the winds and the open spaces. Taking a few final deep breaths in that supported position. And then when you're ready, bend your knees back in towards you with the soles of the feet on the ground so that you can slowly lift the pelvis away from the block, slide it out from underneath you, and then gently lower the pelvis and lower back onto the ground. Bring the insides of your knees together to touch one another, the feet wide, the knees knocking in towards one another, and then just take a few final moments to rest here. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it and that you find a little bit more ease now for your back, for the whole of your body, and to take you into the rest of your day. Thanks so much. See you next time.